Welcome back to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and boy, did I miss you all last week. I know we didn't do our typical 2 episodes last week, but don't worry, we're certainly going to make up for it. We're going to have 3 this week. We're going to have 3 next week. I'm trying not to continue to do 3 every week because I do have other things I need to do in my life, but I love bringing this content to you folks. So we're going to continue to do that. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Jocelyn Sheltraw from Headset. I certainly enjoyed speaking with her. It was great to speak to a like-minded person. We share a lot of the same experiences. We talk to a lot of the same people. And honestly, Jocelyn keeps me up to date with all of her LinkedIn posts. So if you haven't seen that one, check it out at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. Of course, the conversation we had the week before is also there with Laura Morarty from Leafly. Another great conversation. I got to tell you, I have not been off the Leafly site since speaking to Laura. I've started digging into all the lineage of all the different strains that I like, figuring out new strains I should try in my area. Kudos to Leafly. You guys have done a great job. And if you're new to the cannabis industry, if you're kind of curious, as they say, or even if you're a regular user and you just are very unfamiliar with what you actually like, definitely check out Leafly. Thank you again to Laura for that conversation. Again, folks, that is everywhere you find podcasts and on our YouTube channel. We have an awesome event coming up Thursday. Another great panel for C-Lab. If you want to check it out, go to joinclab.com, folks. These are not going to be broadcast on Facebook. The only way to get in is to either join C-Lab or buy a ticket. So you can check that out at joinclab.com. All right. So over a year ago, when we started this podcast, one of the original intentions was to showcase the best of the cannabis industry to the world, right? Originally, I wasn't sure how many people were going to watch this show, but I figured if I can at least bring all these cool people that I was meeting at conferences, meeting with different meetings and everything else, if I can showcase them to my friends, to my Facebook, to my Instagram, to my LinkedIn family, especially my deep IT community, that I could expose that the cannabis industry was here to stay, it was serious, and that all sorts of businesses can help grow and support our industry. I think this episode kind of shows us what that's like, because we have companies now that have operated well before the cannabis industry was legal, and they are now very mainstays of our industry, supporting us from afar, supporting different parts of the supply chain. Of course, they support other industries as well too, but we want to understand, we'll say, traditional business view on the cannabis industry and how we're working together. So with me today are 2 friends of C-Lab. Please welcome Lindsey Ramos and Todd Sherman of Midland Scientific. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Well, thank you both for joining us. So obviously you guys are friends of C-Lab. I believe you're up on the board behind me somewhere here. If not, you're going to be on the new one. Sorry about that. It's a pandemic. We haven't been able to buy a new one. But how has C-Lab been for both of you guys? Let's talk about the experience. Have you been able to get out to meetings? You know, have you met a lot of people through it? Just give us a little background.
Yeah, so I can touch on that one. I'm Lindsey Ramos. I am the sales representative for Midland Scientific that represents Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. I recently did attend the event that was held by C-Lab in Miami. I had a little booth there, and I got to meet a lot of really awesome people. I learned a lot by just talking with everyone that I got to meet. I really got some great insight into the cannabis industry that I didn't have before, and that's kind of how Midland has so far been involved. And yeah, so that's pretty much
cool.
that.
Well, we love seeing you come join. Obviously you saw an opportunity coming down and talking to us down in Miami and coming to the event. Tell us a little bit more about Midland in general. How long have you guys been operating? Tell us about, who you focus, and then let's kind of merge that into why cannabis? Why is your company one of the few that are venturing into our space?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been around for over 45 years. And when we originally started, we were just a distributor for a chemical manufacturer. And that was back in the mid 70s. And at that time, we had just one location. And since then, we've really been growing and growing and growing. And we've expanded our portfolio to represent over 500 different manufacturers and suppliers. And with that growth, that's allowed us to put 6 different distribution sites around the country to kind of service everything from the West Coast to the East Coast within a 2-day range. And I always like to say Amazon kind of set the bar high with free 2-day shipping. So, we kind of had to counteract that with more regional distribution sites and just kind of stock more products for our customers there. And for many years, we always kind of focus in on the industrial egg market, which is kind of it's a really broad description of our markets, but I mean, it kind of encompasses everything that we work with in the food and beverage industry and biofuels and ethanol, biodiesel and production, any normal labs doing standard soil, water, wastewater, stuff like that. And then over the years, we expanded into other markets with oil and gas and petroleum with oil refineries, and then some pharmaceutical and nutraceutical manufacturing. And then most recently, definitely the cannabis and hemp market. And it's been a learning curve for sure. Just kind of learning about the different processes and the different supplies that are being used, different vendors that we had to start partnering with, so that way we could start kind of being that one-stop shop for all of the cannabis and hemp labs.
It is great to have a company like you guys in the space, because you do have experience in different industries that you can bring here for some of these processes that are more experimental. And, for some of the processes that people are trying out, folks who look from the outside the cannabis industry, they look in, and I think the view has changed. I'd like to think the public, the public opinion of cannabis has gotten better, but people look at our industry, and I'm sure a lot of them still think that it's a bunch of hippies and stoners and burnouts just in fields growing product and selling it to each other. I mean, I went down to the Flowery this past Saturday, which is one of the MMTCs down here in Florida, and took a tour. And, those pictures were posted on the C Lab Instagram page. And I had a buddy of mine's like, dude, I did not know it was that involved with the hairnets and the coveralls and the face covers and all this stuff. He's like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, and you can't get anything on your body, the skin cells, the hair on the plant. This is medicine. This is real science and everything else behind it. So I'm sure the two of you, based on the products that you're selling to these farms and labs and everybody else, can certainly debunk that this is just not a bunch of hippies in cargo shorts in fields somewhere growing plants, that there are real products that you are providing to the same people that you provide in food and beverage and other industries as well.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. There's so much science that's going into this, so much testing. A lot of these places, anybody that's making edibles, that stuff has to be tested very thoroughly. And I mean, you guys know, not just edibles, but everything. And there's just so much that goes into that. And, we could be your kind of one-stop shop. And if, we may not be experts, but we can connect you to the experts. If you need something, but you're not quite sure, contact us. We can help you find what you need. We can get it to you at a fair price, and we can get it to you as quickly as possible. And yeah, there is just so much behind cannabis that it is not just a bunch of hippies, selling to each other. There's so much behind it, and it's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Todd, I don't know if you want to weigh in, when you first started servicing the cannabis industry, were you surprised at the kind of stuff you were selling? Were you essentially just expecting it to be rubber gloves and a few containers?
To be honest, that was kind of my mindset when I first started going into these labs. And it's just kind of funny that like 5-6 years ago, when I'd walk into one of these labs and I'd come out and I'd talk to friends or family about the customer that I went and visited, and it still was such a taboo subject and a taboo industry. And since then, the evolution of the testing has become so impressive, where not just anybody can operate an HPLC or an LCMS or do the extractions that they're doing. And it's an industry that's evolving constantly to where they're improving their testing, they're making things more pure, and and everything about it just seems to be really impressive.
Yeah. Are you guys, I mean, Lindsey, if you want to chime in here as well, like, do you guys are just impressed at the evolution of the industry, just like the products? Like, I'm sure all of a sudden someone calls you up looking at the catalog, the website, and they're like, boom, I need one of these. You're like, wait, you need one of those? What do you need that for? Like, that no one else in the industry buys. Don't question me. I need that, right? People start calling in and surprising you with what they're ordering, just seeing the evolution in the industry.
Absolutely. It has gotten so detailed, and just the things that they use, some of the glassware, the rotary evaporators, it's amazing. And yeah, it's been totally surprising over the years. But a lot of, we supply a lot of chemicals too. Just the amount of chemicals to do the testing that they have to do is very surprising. So there's a lot that goes into it that is you would not think of if you really didn't know, and it's amazing. And a lot of laws are changing all the time, new ways of sampling. Oh, you have to have this, new tests are coming out all the time. So everything is just constantly changing, and the standards that they need, it's amazing. It really is. And it's a lot to keep up with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why people watch the show, to keep up with the industry, at least. Now you're helping us do that. So I think the only constant in our industry is change and regulation changing and all that. It's interesting, again, look from companies looking from the outside in, we see some of these main players in the industry get featured in CNBC and stuff like that, but it's really only the big publicly traded companies, and it's really the plant touching ones, like your GTIs, your Curaleafs, your Veranos, and things like that. I'm sure that you guys work with some of those big MSOs, but even on the laboratory side, I don't think that people realize that there are big, massive chains of labs and testing facilities and big players in each region, that there is not only a big cannabis economy coming in every state that legalizes, but there's a very big ancillary ecosystem that is existing around this industry as well too. Can you guys talk about just some of the companies that you see servicing this space, your clients that are in the ancillary that are supporting this, and even some of the plant touching companies that you work with?
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. So there are just countless numbers of labs throughout the US that are, testing cannabis, whether they're testing, the flowers, they're testing, the hemp, they're testing all the products that come from it, the tinctures, sorry, I can't say the word. Anything that you're making is being tested, right? And so there are labs that are just, employed with so many scientists. So, not only are, you're having people working at the farms and in the dispensaries themselves, but you're having all these laboratory, so people that are getting bachelor's degrees, scientists. The cannabis lab is supporting so many scientists right now. It's amazing. I don't know, Todd, do you have anything on that?
Well, and just kind of just piggybacking off of that, when I lived out in Colorado for a year, and I remember talking to some teachers at the time when I was out there, and they talked the year prior when cannabis was legalized out there, and just the tax revenue for the state of Colorado in general, where they were able to increase their average teacher salary by like 30%, which is just an outrageously high growth for a teacher salary, which is awesome to see. And the state of Colorado was able to fund a lot of projects that they were trying to accomplish, and bring on more police and just everything. I mean, there's such a big downstream effect that I don't think a lot of people realize comes from the tax revenue side of cannabis as well.
No, I agree with you. It's not only the tax revenue side, but realistically, like, we're creating a new economy in this country. We're creating a brand new industry, or I mean, we're only creating a new industry because it's linked together by cannabis, but it's going to integrate into all these other industries. It's going to create jobs. It's going to create tax revenue. It's going to create new streams of revenue for other companies just within this country that have a brand new industry that they can sell to. And I think you guys have proved that. Todd, you were telling me before the show that it was the Denver market that brought you guys into cannabis, and rightly so. Denver brought a lot of people into cannabis and really opened this country's eyes to what this plant can do and what legalizing does. I assume that there's a resale component to what you guys do, that you're not manufacturing everything. Did you have to have a conversation with any of the companies that you represent, or that, you sell their equipment, saying like, hey, just so you know, like, cannabis companies want your equipment. Are you good working with them? Because I can tell you, I come from an IT background, and, I wanted to help companies with an ERP system in this industry. And I went to a friend of mine who worked for a big company on ERPs. And I said, let's build this thing based on this platform. It'll be awesome. We'll sell it to everybody. She asked her boss, and she goes, we can't work with the cannabis industry. And I got really angry. I actually sent her boss an email. Probably shouldn't have done that. But like, the companies that you guys work with, did you have to have a conversation with them, or were they just like, boom, let's do it? We're here, we're ready to support.
I think it kind of started off where everybody was a little hesitant. Everybody wanted to get into that space, but again, it was such a taboo market that it's like nobody wanted to admit that they wanted to get into that space. And then, I think everybody kind of just saw the potential growth and the long-term growth of everything. So I'd say at the very beginning, there was a lot of hesitant suppliers and manufacturers that wanted nothing the cannabis industry. But since then, there's been companies that have shot up that only specialize in the cannabis industry. And a lot of our manufacturers have designed very specific pieces of equipment and components that are only used in the cannabis and hemp market. So it's just really, I don't know, kind of amazing to see how people are willing to evolve and change with all of this too, and kind of branch into a different space and be so open and willing to work in that space.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's Lindsey, did you have something to add?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think especially at first there were, a lot of really big lab supply distributors like Midland Scientific that would not supply to the cannabis industry. And so us as a company, realized we need to get in on that market. We need to supply these labs. They need it. This stuff needs to be tested, and we want to be there for them, to get this moving.
I mean, I'm glad that your company had the foresight to see that, right? Because in my opinion, the reason that a lot of us go to the legal market as opposed to what we were doing originally, because let's be honest, for the most part, folks, with tax and everything else, black market's cheaper a lot of times. But the reason a lot of us go to the legal market is because of the testing and the processes and the procedures around it, right? We want to know what we're putting in our body is safe. And what I think that does is that justifies what we're talking about with this plant. It justifies the advocacy that we have, because if we're going to put it into our bodies, it should be the natural version of it. It should be the pure version of it. And I got to say, there is an opportunity for this to all be a house of cards if we didn't have the testing processes that we've had, if we don't have those procedures, and we're putting garbage into this and it harms people. It ruins everything that advocates have been fighting for hundreds of years or 100 years. I don't know how long it's been at this point, right? I should, and I'm sorry for saying that. I just can't do quick math in my head, people. It's not that I don't care. So, that's why I'm glad that a company like yours was able to come in. And, I'm sure at first there was a lot of education for you guys, both learning this industry and what we do, but also the amount of knowledge that you all can bring to the industry. Like you said, you connect people with experts, but, I'm sure there are plenty of cases where you've had someone calling about certain products or anything else, and you're able to connect with someone. They probably just nerd out together, and all of a sudden they're designing a new piece or a new part for the industry. I don't know if you have any of those examples, but I mean, I imagine that's had to happen once or twice.
I don't have a specific example for you, but I can 100% tell you, I'm sure that happens very often. Very often.
Awesome. Listen, like I said, I'm very glad that you guys have the foresight to do that, because it does anger me when businesses don't want to support this industry, because we are doing a lot of good. A lot of the people on this show have supported it. So, what else do you guys tell me more about how you guys are supporting the industry, the folks that are watching the show, that work in labs, that working on farms. What can they rely on you guys for?
So Midland Scientific, we are a full line laboratory supply distributor. So that means, we can cover you, from your gloves all the way up to your largest pieces of equipment. We can supply it for you. We can make sure that you get exactly what you need by either, knowing ourselves or bringing in the experts. We also have a lot of tools to help you manage your inventory. If you're running a big lab and you have thousands of things that you order, we've got a really great online stockroom manager to help you, organize your lab supplies, take your inventory, make ordering easier. We can also offer, on-site vendor managed inventory. We have so many ways to help you organize your lab and make, just make ordering your lab supplies a breeze. And that's what I'm here for, for the people in, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. I would be here to help you, anything that you need. And we certainly pride ourselves on our service. And I do as well. I want to take care of my customers, from beginning to end. Anything that you need, we're here for you.
Very cool. Lindsey, are we going to see you at the next C-Lab conference again?
I'm sure. Yes.
Absolutely. Todd, anything you want to share? This is going to be a quick version of Elevate Your Grind. I've got family stuff to do tonight, so that's my fault. But Todd, anything else you'd like to share before we get out of here?
For the most part, Lindsey covered most of it. Yeah, she touched on a lot of the items that we do carry, all the HPLC and LCMS chemicals, vials, rotovast, fume hoods. A lot of the manufacturers that we work with are, some of the common manufacturers that every distributor works with, and some of them we do kind of work with exclusively a little bit too, like Buki and Shimatsu, PerkinElmer. So any of those opportunities, yeah, we can absolutely help with any of that. And Lindsey touched on the inventory management system on our website, and that is a free service. It's last time I checked, most people don't go to college to order lab supplies. So our goal is to make ordering these lab supplies as easy and as humanly possible. So that way everybody can get back to doing what they're hired to do and do the testing and focus in on that stuff and not have to track down pipette tips or something. So
I like it. I like making the job easier. Thank you both for what you do for the industry. Like I said, having the foresight to support this industry and continue to support this industry. I hope it's paid off for you guys, and hope to have you guys back and see you at the conference, folks. Lindsey, Todd, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Thank you to Lindsey and Todd, and thank you to everybody at home for watching another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We are going to be live again tomorrow. Like I said, we've got 3 episodes this week with our good friend Cody Sanchez. She's all settled in. She is ready to sit down with us, and I cannot wait to have her back on the show tomorrow. Of course, if you missed any part of this episode today, you can catch it live on Monday at youtube.com/elevate your grind or wherever you download your audio podcast, folks. We will see you again here tomorrow, right here live, facebook.com/Cannabis Business Group. Have a good night.